Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Hare Krishna. Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Hare Krishna. We're still floating from last night. We had a 2-hour kirtan down at Nandi Yoga. But I don't know about any of you who came last night, but it was a reminder of how powerful the chanting of the holy names is, because I woke up happy, and for no reason. I have a lot of things to be unhappy about, or to be concerned about. Seem to be so concerned. So this process of contacting the Supreme Personality of Godhead through His divine potencies, and especially the holy name, which is non-different from the Lord Himself. Apana samsritim goran yanama vibhishogranam. Those who are entangled in samsritim, means birth and death, they can even be extricated by chanting the holy name. This is how powerful it is. There are ways in which the Shastras say that it's very difficult to get out of the material world, not the least of which is the verse we discussed last week, Daivahi eshu gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. It's very difficult to get out of this mess, and people try in various ways. We hear from Sri Brahma Samhita that yogis drill the respiration, they try to control their senses independently, that is, by their own strength. But through bhakti, by simply depending on the holy name, even an ordinary person, even a fallen person, even a low-born person, even a person who doesn't know much about bhakti, even a person, as the Bhagavatam says, with their eyes closed, will not trip and fall on the path of bhakti, because one takes shelter of the supreme potency of the Lord, as mentioned also by Shukadeva Goswami, Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumba Yavanaka Saraya. Yenecha papa yadapashraya shraya shudyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. Doesn't matter what low-born position you're from, because of the power of Lord Vishnu, if you simply depend on that, then you'll be delivered. And the main means by which to take shelter of the Lord directly, one might ask that, where is He? And how do I take shelter of Him? Is answered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, depend on the holy names and enter into a life of dependence on the holy name and take shelter there. You really can get shelter by the holy name. Even those who chant unknowingly, unwittingly, they get benefit. What to speak of somebody who understands the science behind it, who knows that there are various energies in the universe, that some are divine, and that some are mundane because they've been affected by material consciousness. And that such a person also understands the science of the holy names. The Lord has names that are very intimate, that are very special to Him. And if you chant those names, especially as they're passed down from a guru through disciplic succession, then there's the added feature that you're chanting in submission, taking shelter of someone. Then the potency of that is enough. Samsritim Goran, one can be delivered from the cycle of birth and death, which is the biggest event that could happen in this world. Everything else is pretty predictable, that everyone goes on being stuck with the way they are, and even if they think they're not stuck, then they get swept back under and they have to start over again in a new life. One can be delivered from that just by chanting the holy names. Let's first take shelter of the Brahma Samhita this morning, because it's one of the favorite books of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he recommended it to all his disciples, and that's been a tradition for over 500 years, that Gaudiya Vaishnavas under Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take shelter of this book daily. And this Brahma Samhita gives in a summary form all the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And it includes a description of the spiritual world, which you won't find in the New York Times, or the New Yorker, or the Washington Post, or MSNBC, or anywhere else. they're not going to give you a description of the spiritual world. Right, Mukarvind? Yes. Okay. So let's look at the English first. How is everyone today? Happy because it's raining, right? Free water for everybody, the source of life. Free car wash. Every raindrop has a nucleus. That's how raindrops form. That's why after volcanic eruptions, there's more rain, because there's more particulate matter in the air. The condensation in the air is able to form into drops. That's how they try to seed clouds sometimes, is put particulate matter in the air so it doesn't actually wash your car. That's why after a small rain, you'll notice your car's dirtier than it was before. I just thought I'd add that as a bonus tip for this morning. Krishna, we can read together, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. The spiritual place of transcendental pastimes of Krishna is portrayed in this second verse. I hope you have 2020 vision. The super excellent station of Krishna, which is known as Gokula, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus, sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect. The whorl of the leaves being the actual abode of Krishna. The whorl of that transcendental lotus is the realm wherein dwells Krishna. It is a hexagonal figure, the abode of the indwelling, predominated and predominating aspect of the Absolute. Like a diamond, the central supporting figure of self-luminous Krishna stands as the transcendental source of all potencies. The holy name, consisting of 18 transcendental letters, is manifested in a hexagonal figure with sixfold divisions. The whorl of that eternal realm, Gokula, is the hexagonal abode of Krishna. His petals are the abodes of gopis, who are part and parcel of Krishna, to whom they are most lovingly devoted and are similar in essence. The petals shine beautifully like so many walls. The extended leaves of that lotus are the garden-like dham, that is the spiritual abode of Sri Radhika, the most beloved of Krishna. The surrounding external plane of Gokula is described in this verse. There is a mysterious quadrangular place named Shvetadvipa surrounding the outskirts of Gokula. Shvetadvipa is divided into 4 parts on all sides. The abode of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are separately located in each of these 4 parts. These 4 divided abodes are enveloped by the 4-fold human requirements such as piety, wealth, passion, and liberation, as also by the 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, which deal with the mantra and which are the basis of achievements of the 4-fold mundane requirements. 10 tridents are fixed in the 10 directions, including the zenith and nadir. The 8 directions are decorated with the 8 jewels of Mahapadma, Padma, Shankha, Makara, Kachapa, Mukunda, Kunda, and Nila. There are 10 protectors, Dikpalas, of the 10 directions in the form of mantra. The associates of the hues of blue, yellow, red, and white, and the extraordinary potencies bearing the names of Bimala, etc., shine on all sides. Is it possible to make the text slightly larger? That's you can do? Can't do it now. Oh, because it's I see, it's a PowerPoint. Okay, no problem. The Lord of Gokula is the transcendental supreme Godhead, the own self of eternal ecstasies. He is the superior of all superiors and is busily engaged in the enjoyments of the transcendental realm and has no association with his mundane potency. I hope it's no. Okay.
So we can read from the Veda-based translations.
Okay. Okay, so as we're switching over, we had just read that the Lord has no association with the mundane potency. So this is an important point that Radhika Raman Prabhu was pointing out the last time he was here giving seminar, because this goes to the separation between Krishna and the material world. It's simultaneously him and not him, Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, and also as he mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, nakartritvam nakarmani lokasya sujati prabhu. Nakarma, something, that's, he doesn't create the karma of the living entities, nor does he enjoy the fruits of their activities. That's due to the living entities' involvement with the material world. He merely, as we hear from these verses, glances over the material energy, and things come into play after that. Yeah, let's read that again, 5:6. The Lord of Gokula is the transcendental supreme Godhead, the own self of eternal ecstasies. He is the superior of all superiors and is busily engaged in the enjoyments of the transcendental realm and has no association with his mundane potency. Let's read the purport to that, please. And here it is. The sole potency of Krishna, which is spiritual, functioning as Krishna's own proper power, has manifested his pastimes of Goloka or Gokula. By her grace, individual souls are constituents of the marginal potency, who are constituents of the marginal potency, can have admission into even those pastimes. The deluding energy, who is of the nature of the perverted reflection of the spiritual chit potency, has got her location on the other side of the river Viraja, which surrounds the Brahmadham, forming the boundary of Mahavaikuntha as the outer envelope of Goloka. The position of Goloka being absolutely unalloyed with the mundane deluding energy, far from having any association with Krishna, feels ashamed to appear before his view. Does that give us all a better idea where we are right now? It's good. It's important to know, because who wouldn't ask that question if you find yourself suddenly you wake up somewhere and you don't know where you are? Wouldn't you want to ask somebody, like, where am I? You have some curiosity to find out where we are. So actually, that's a very important point, to have a sense of the overall structure of the universe, what's beyond. And here it's described, there's a demarcation point named Viraja, the river where the modes of material nature don't act, but it's not part of the material world, it's not part of the spiritual world. And beyond that Viraja demarcation point, there's the Mahavaikuntha, and if one comes through, then of course we have the Shiva's abode, because we hear later on in the Brahma Samhita, Goloka namni nijadamni chaleta tasya devi mahesha haridama suteshu teshu te te prabhava nichaya vihitascha yena Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lowest of all is Devi Dham, above Devi Dham is Mahesh Dham, above Mahesh Dham is Haridam, and above Haridam is Goloka, Krishna's own realm. Okay, so continuing on 5.7, Krishna never consorts with his illusory energy. Still, her connection is not entirely cut off from the absolute truth. We can read together. When he intends to create the material world, the amorous pastime in which he engages by consorting with his own spiritual chit potency, Rama, by casting his glance at the deluding energy in the shape of sending his time energy is an auxiliary activity. Let's look at the purport there too. The illusory energy has no direct contact with Krishna. Not together, I'm just going to read the purport. But it has got indirect contact. Vishnu, the prime cause, lying in the causal ocean, the plenary portion of Sankarshana, who has his seat in Mahavaikuntha, the sphere of Krishna's own extended transcendental pastimes, casts his glance toward the deluding energy. Even in casting his glance, he has no contact with the deluding energy, because the spiritual chit potency Rama then carries the function of his glance as his unpolluted, ever-submissive potency. The deluding energy, as the maidservant of the spiritual chit potency Rama, serves the manifested plenary portion of Godhead consorted with Rama, the time energy representing the force of activity and instrumentality of Rama. Hence, there is found that the process of masculinity or the creative force. So the potencies of the Lord's potency is so great, Parasha Shakti Vividaiva Shriyate, simply by his existence and his will, wherever he looks, his will is manifested, his energies come to the material world and begin the whole process which makes creation take place, maintenance and so forth. Uh-oh, the mics are dead? The Karna Ocean? This Karna Ocean is first of all, there's that's sometimes described as being in the realm of the Viraja. And then after the initial glance of the Lord, he comes into he creates individual universes and then enters into each one of those. And those he fills up halfway with his perspiration. Then he lies on those oceans and from there expands himself again. Prabhu. Oh, we have microphones here. Can we just turn them all on? Please stand by. We're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. There is a series of lectures by Gokul Chandravas. Actually, he's the president of the ISKCON Salem in Tamil Nadu, disciple of Bhakti Vikas Swami. So he studied a few scriptures, Brahma Samhita, and Surya Siddhant, etc., like 3-4 Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he was mentioning that Karan Ocean is actually it's the perspiration of personified Vedas.
Okay, please bring more specific, if you can. I mean, you don't have to give it now, but
I don't know it. That's all he said.
Okay, thank you. Continuing 5.8, the secondary process of association with Maya is described. Rama Devi, the spiritual chit potency, beloved consort of the Supreme Lord, is the regulatrix of all entities. The divine plenary portion of Krishna creates the mundane world. At creation there appears a divine halo of the nature of his own subjective portion, Shramsha. This halo is divine Shambhu, the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. This halo is the dim twilight reflection of the supreme eternal effulgence. This masculine symbol is the subjective portion of divinity who functions as progenitor of the mundane world. Subject to the supreme regulatrix, Niyati, the conceiving potency in regard to mundane creation, makes her appearance out of the supreme regulatrix. She is Maya, the limited, non-absolute apara potency, the symbol of mundane feminine productivity. The intercourse of these two brings forth the faculty of perverted cognition, the reflection of the seed of the procreative desire of the Supreme Lord. 9. All offspring of the consort of the great Lord Maheshwara of this mundane world are of the nature of the embodiment of the mundane masculine and feminine generative organs. The person embodying the material causal principle, namely the great Lord of this mundane world, Maheshwara, Shambhu, in the form of the male generating organ, is joined to his female consort, the limited energy Maya, as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him by his subjective portion in the form of his glance. The Lord of the mundane world, Mahavishnu, possesses thousands of heads, eyes, hands. He is the source of thousands of avatars in his thousands of subjective portions. He is the creator of thousands of individual souls. The same Mahavishnu is spoken of the name Narayana in this mundane world. From that eternal person has sprung the vast expanse of water of the spiritual causal ocean. The subjective portion of Sankarsana, who abides in Paravyoma, the above Supreme Purusha, with thousands of subjective portions, reposes in the state of divine sleep, Yoga Nidra, in the waters of the spiritual causal ocean. The spiritual seeds of Sankarsana, existing in the pores of skin of Mahavishnu, are born as so many golden sperms. These sperms are covered by the 5 great elements. The same Mahavishnu entered into each universe as his own separate subjective portions. The divine portions that entered into each universe are possessed of his majestic extension, that is, they are the eternal universal soul, Mahavishnu, possessing thousands of heads. The same Mahavishnu created Vishnu from his left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb, and from the space between its 2 eyebrows, Shambhu, the divine masculine manifested halo. The function of Shambhu in relation to Jivas is that this universe, enshrining this mundane egotistic principle, has originated from Shambhu. Therefore, the same great personal Godhead, assuming the 3-fold forms of Vishnu, Prajapati, and Shambhu, entering into the mundane universe, plays the pastimes of preservation, creation, and destruction of this world. This pastime is contained in the mundane world, hence it being perverted. The Supreme Lord, identical with Mahavishnu, prefers to consort with the goddess Yoganidra, the constituents of his own spiritual chit potency, full of the ecstatic trance of eternal bliss appertaining to his own divine personality. So it's mentioned here, this pastime is contained in the mundane world, hence it being perverted. The Supreme Lord, identical with Mahavishnu, prefers to consort with the goddess Yoganidra. It means he's not so actively engaged. Yoganidra means he's like half-closed eyes, sort of a little bit zoned out for the material world, because it's not about devotional service. Everyone's running around on the 101 freeway, going to Home Depot, and all kinds of mundane activities. Let's look at the purport. And meanwhile, could you, Mukharvina, grab me an Adi 1? The dislocated portions of the divinity, namely Prajapati and Shambhu, both identifying themselves as entities who are separate from the divine essence, sport with their respective non-spiritual Achit consorts, namely Savitri Devi and Uma Devi, the perverted reflections of the spiritual chit potency. The Supreme Lord Vishnu is the only Lord of the spiritual chit potency, Rama or Lakshmi. What's that? So this is mentioned also, this process of creation. The first section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We have in starting on text number 7:17. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarsana, Sheshanaga, and the Vishnus who lie in the Karna ocean, Garbha ocean, and the ocean of milk are his plenary portions, or the portions of his plenary portions. I surrender into the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, who is known as Sankarsana, in the midst of the Chaturvyuha, consisting of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. I offer my full obeisances to the feet of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, whose partial representation, called Karnadakshay Vishnu, lying on the Karna ocean, is the original Purusha, the master of the illusory energy, and the shelter of all the universes. I offer my full obeisances under the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, a partial part of whom is Garbhodakshay Vishnu. From the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu sprouts the lotus that is the birthplace of Brahma, the engineer of the universe. The stem of that lotus is the resting place of the multitude of planets. I offer my respectful obeisances under the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, under the lotus feet of who? Whose secondary part is the Vishnu lying in the ocean of milk. That Kshirodakshay Vishnu is the supersoul of all living entities and the maintainer of all the universes. Sheshanag is his further subpart. Lord Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. So you can see from this that the world didn't happen by chance. It not only has intricate design everywhere, beyond our imagination, but it also has beauty. Any grain of sand, in fact there's a website where you can look at grains of sand, and every grain of sand that you see is a work of art. It's like a little jewel. The whole creation is like that. And there's thoughtfulness behind it. There's a divine personality behind it. And it's one person, but he expands himself into many forms for different functions and different relationships and different purposes. Who can prove that from the Brahma Samhita? That the Lord is one, but he expands himself into many. Yes, Ram Parash. Advaitam Achutam Anadir Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktau Govindamadi Purusham Tamahamadi. Judges, Advaitam Achutam. Yes, that is a good verse. Very good. I'm thinking of two more. Departure eva hita shantanam abhipetya dipayate vritaheta samana dharma. This verse, departure eva hita shantanam abhipetya, says there's one candle, departure eva, and that one candle lights many other candles. So there's still one original candle, and all the other candles have similar potency, but still there's an original. And one more verse, please. Which one? Karanarna bhajale bhajati sma yoga nidramananta saromakupa adhara shaktim avalamya param samurtim govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Can you look it up, please? And I was also thinking of Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamina Tishna Nana Vatara Makarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramapumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. All these point to the same conclusion. We're monotheists, actually. We believe in one God. There's not many gods. Sometimes people think, oh, you believe in many gods. I see many forms, and there are demigods and so forth. But actually, there's one God, and he's the source of all the other various forms that we see. Well, thank you. Special delivery from Govindaji. Thank you, Prabhu. This verse is Yakaranarna Bhajale. See, when you really want to prove your point through Sastra, you have to actually deliver it personally. This verse says, this is number 47. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who, assuming his own great subjective form, who bears the name of Shesha, replete with the all-accommodating potency, and reposing in the causal ocean, with the infinity of the world in the pores of his hair, enjoys creative sleep, yoga nidra. Yes. And the other verse, departure eva hita shantanama bipetya, is number?
46.
No. 46? 46. Okay? 46 says, the light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who exhibits himself equally in the same mobile manner in his various manifestations. So, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam. 33. You are on a roll, Mukaravinda. He cannot be stopped. Okay. 33. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unworldly devotion of the soul, who is one without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless. This is, very much to the point, who is beginningless and is the eternal Purusha, yet he's a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. A person. So everything that we see comes from a person, comes from the divine original person. And our good fortune comes in developing our relationship with that Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as we navigate our way through the material world, we also may become now aware, by getting this information, of how everything's being maintained, everything's been created, everything will be annihilated and wound up within the body of a person. In fact, the body of the universe is actually the body of the Lord. This is described in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the universal form of the Lord is actually his body. It's the external form, therefore it's described as slightly imaginary, but in the sense that everything is Krishna and all the forms come from him, this universal form is also him. And Shukadeva Goswami said we should become aware of that. Nowadays people take it for granted that they own certain plots of land, they can cut down the trees, exploit the resources and so forth. But those who are aware that it's the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead walk very carefully in the world and understand, Tena tyaktena bhunjita. I take only those things, I enjoy only those things which were set aside for me as my quota by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the solution to all problems of life, is to become conscious of the Supreme Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is a traceable sequence where we see all the effects of this world that comes back to one cause. Sarva karana karanam, there's one cause to everything, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not unknowable. In one sense, he's unknowable, but he's not even fully knowable to himself, but to the degree that we can serve him and enter into the process of bhakti yoga, to that degree we can know him as he reveals himself to us. Ye yata mam prapadyante tams tataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanavartante manusya parta sarvasha. As you surrender to me, Krishna says, I reward you accordingly. And now we'll take a few reflections just from our brief reading of the Brahma Samhita and any discussion we've had so far. Please reflect back with relevant shastric statements or inquiries or whatever you heard so far that's stuck in your mind. Govinda.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I was thinking that Brahma Samhita really brings together all the different Sanatana Dharma philosophies like Shaivism and Vaishnavism. And there's this one verse in which Shambhu, so there's one verse on Lord Shambhu, right, that he is the efficient cause of material creation. So basically that is Shaivism. I mean, if you just say restricted in that becomes Shaivism. And that becomes...
No, I heard restricted, but...
No, I mean, if you just restrict yourself to that, if you think that is the end all and be all of Sanatana Dharma philosophy, then that becomes the basis for Shaivism. But
that's the word I'm not hearing. It's not basis of what? Oh, Shaivism. Thank you.
Just like Vaishnavism.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but it is actually encapsulated in a much larger philosophy of Vaishnavism. So that's very beautiful how, if you just zoom in and kind of limit yourself to some specific ideas, it becomes a path.
Yeah, and this is a tendency of jivas to limit themselves to a particular vision. Then they'll zoom in one area. It's important to have sambandha gyan, or a complete knowledge of the categories of energy. That's why in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, and also as mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. These are truths or categories of truth that are there, the emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord exists as and is known by those who are knowers of these truths to be impersonal Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. When somebody has misunderstood these categories of truth, they're known as nirvishesha, because they don't understand the categories of truth. They don't understand that there are any categories at all, and therefore they're outside the realm of pure knowledge. What else? Shraddha and then Bali.
Raj, I was reflecting on your last statement that you made towards the end, where you were saying that about lording it over the material nature, and we should actually be tena tak tena bhanjita, that part that you said. And I was thinking about in Srimad Bhagavatam, where it talks about Prithu Maharaj when he goes back home, and so while he's distributing all his opulences that he had acquired, he distributes them both amongst the moving and the non-moving. And I was very surprised, like, how can you distribute something that you have to the non-moving? And then further down it says that he dedicated his sons to earth, like that, Mother Earth.
So you're pointing that out as the way in which a person who is fully God conscious has a comprehensive view. He sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord.
And then you see, like, dedicating your son to Mother Earth is like, okay, that's the quota for Mother Earth.
Look up Stara Jangama. This is a very famous verse. And Bali Prabhu is next, and then Kanka.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So I would like 2 points. One is, you mentioned about the current ocean, which is accurate information based on Prabhupada's purport in many places in Bhagavatam and other areas also, that how God's perspiration, and there is a room conversation in Mumbai with, and Prabhupada jokingly say how, I don't know, Dr. Patel or somebody was asking, and Prabhupada was responding that, okay, how the perspiration of God is coming. He said that God is also, imagine, afraid of coming to the material world, and he's out of fear, the perspiration is coming from him. So we should remember that we should go back to Godhead, because that is our ultimate aim. So he was giving very nicely, everything he gives, it's lighter mode. Yes. So I was liking that point. And second one also, I like your Brahma Adi Murti Sunyamina Kalatish. There are various forms of God, and we should not misunderstand the Brahm or Nrsimha or many others form of God, but this God is one. So one should compose and bring the mind into one focal point, that God is one. That is important.
Yes. Thank you very much, Bali Prabhu. And then someone could run a microphone back to Kanka, please. With the relay team.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I really liked the part of this one verse that's up there still, and that he is a person possessing the beauty of a blooming youth, and how you explained that, yes, we believe in one God, because, so many people think that, especially Hindus, believe in so many gods, but Krishna expands himself into so many different forms. And then his point to understand that these different passages that are in the Vedas, like it says, you can't really understand it unless you have unalloyed devotion of the soul, which can be understood through the teachings of the Guru, of the spiritual master. And yesterday I was hearing Prabhupada talk about the importance of being conscious when you're in nature, especially, that everything, he said, even be careful about the trees and the plants. He said, he's like saying how, be so careful how we treat this, and you were telling us how, yes, it's the universal form.
Thank you very much. Kanka, I especially want to focus on your point about how one cannot understand the personality of God unless one gets association with pure devotees. Prabhupada points this out in his purports, and that is that by mental speculation, one can come as far as understanding the impersonal feature of the Lord. That's as far as you can go. Because by reasoning through neti, this couldn't be it, this couldn't be it, then one comes to negate form and personality. But only by hearing from pure devotees who have knowledge of the Lord because of their devotion can one have also awaken in their hearts the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why it's so vital to hear the commentaries from a pure devotee. Did you find that verse for me? It will magically appear. This is a supporting verse, which is very important, from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. I believe it appears in Ramananda Samvad, no? Mukharvind? Ramananda Samvad? Ramananda Samvad. The Bengali first, please. Stavara Jangama Dhaki, or Dhaki. Stavara Jangama Dhaki, na Dhaki Taramurti, Sharvatra Hoy Nija Ishta Deva Spurti. Translation is, the Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purports. Due to his deep ecstatic love for Krishna, the Mahabhagavata sees Krishna everywhere and nothing else. This is confirmed in Brahma Samhita. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena sanktak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. As soon as a devotee sees something, be it movable or inert, he immediately remembers Krishna. An advanced devotee is advanced in knowledge. This knowledge is very natural to devotee, for he has already read in the Bhagavad Gita how to awaken Krishna consciousness. According to Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 7:8, Rasoham apsakaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryayoho pranavat sarvavedeshu shabdake paurusham nishu. O son of Kunti Arjuna, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound and ether and ability in man. Thus, when a devotee drinks water or any other liquid, he immediately remembers Krishna, or any other liquid. For a devotee, there is no difficulty in awakening Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says here, Stavara Jangama Deki na Deki Taramurti Sarvatra Hoy Nija Ishta Deva Spurti. A saintly person, an advanced devotee, sees Krishna 24 hours a day and nothing else. As far as movable and inert things are concerned, a devotee sees them all as transformations of Krishna's energy. As Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 7:4, Bhumirapo nalo vayu kanmanu bhutirevacha ahankar ityame binna prakritirashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, Vaisesika, altogether these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So even looking at the separated energies, Prabhupada's commenting here, if you go up a little higher, that he sees the world a little higher. Or down? No, the other way. Back up. Up. Thank you. As far as movable and inert things are concerned, the devotee sees them all as transformations of Krishna's energies. Movable or inert things, transformations of Krishna's energies. So there's a way in which, through eyes of knowledge, chakshusha, a devotee, by hearing, as Prabhupada mentioned earlier from Bhagavad Gita and in the association of pure devotees, begins to see the world in a different way. The seeing how Krishna's energies, or whatever we see here, it's transformations, and it's coming from Krishna. So down again. Actually, nothing is separate from Krishna. When a devotee sees a tree, he knows that the tree is a combination of 2 energies, material and spiritual. The inferior energy, which is material, forms the body of the tree. However, within the tree is the living entity, the spiritual spark, which is part and parcel of Krishna. This is the superior energy of Krishna within this world. Whatever living thing we see is simply a combination of these two energies. When an advanced devotee thinks of these energies, he immediately understands that they are manifestations of the Supreme Lord. As soon as we see the sun rise in the morning, we arise and set about doing our morning duties. Similarly, as soon as a devotee sees the energy of the Lord, he immediately remembers Lord Sri Krishna. This is explained in this verse. Sarvatra hoy nija ishta deva spurti. A devotee who has purified his existence through devotional service sees only Krishna in every step of life. This is also explained in the next verse, which is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, and this will be Sarvabhuteshu na pashyed, correct? Let's see it. Sarvabhuteshu na pashyed Bhagavan Atma Maya. No, that's not right. Sarvabhuteshu ya pashyed. Yeah. Sarvabhuteshu ya pashyed Bhagavat Bhavamatmana. Bhutani Bhagavatyatmani Esha Bhagavatotama. So this is by one of the Nava-Yogendras. And they're explaining here, one of them is explaining Havi Yogendra, is explaining that the vision of the pure devotee, or the characteristics of the topmost devotee. So there are three levels of devotees. There's the Uttama Adhikari, there's the Madhyama Adhikari, and then the Kanishta Adhikari. And actually we find through a thorough analysis of these three levels of devotees that they're explained in various ways through various points of view. But here Havi Yogendra is giving the definition, one of the definitions of the Uttama Adhikari. So Sarva Bhuteshu, in all objects, in matter, spirit, and combinations of matter and spirit. Scroll down to word for word synonyms, please. So in all objects, in matter, spirit, and combinations of matter and spirit, anyone who pashyat sees Bhagavat Bhavam, the ability to engage in the service of the Lord. Very interesting way the Prabhupada puts, the authors, the translators put it in this particular verse, that he sees an opportunity to serve the Lord. This theme is repeated throughout the Shastras. For instance, we'll hear from our Pandit circle over here, from the Shri Upanishad, two verses which describe how the vision of a person who is trained in knowledge, anupashyati, never hates anything or any being. Microphone to the Pandits, please, quick. Chop, chop. Verses 6 and 7.
Yasmin sarvani bhutani atma vibhut vijanatah tatra ko moha kashoka ekatam anupashyata. Ekatvam anupashyata. This verse talks about he who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, never hates anything or any being.
And sees everything in relationship to the Supreme Lord. Never hates anything or any being. That's a powerful statement, isn't it? One who always sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. That's a very palatable verse for people these days. When I was in New York City about 10 years ago, I used to do a book distribution seminar before each New York Rath Yatra. And I had just given it was on a seminar break, and I was walking out the door with my friend Mitra Sena to take a walk on the break. I just told all the devotees that wherever you go, you should always carry one of Prabhupada's books, because if you do, then Lord Chaitanya will send somebody to you. And we were just walking out the door, and I said, wait a minute, I don't have a book, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. And Mitra Sena said, no, I have a Sri Upanishad. And so we walked on, and we went down the block, took a right, and then another right onto State Street. And just as we were turning the corner, there are a lot of brownstones that are it's an area that's being regentrified now. And so there was a large man in work clothes that he had obviously been working in for some time, big boots, and a huge white dump truck. And he was taking a break, whiling away his time. He was leaning with one elbow on the hood of the dump truck, and he saw Mitrasena and me coming around the corner with dhotis, shaved heads, tilak, and everything like that. To him, this was an unusual sight, I think. I think anyway, he was from somewhere in New York. He had a New York accent. But as we turned the corner and we came closer, he looked, and as we were just about to pass him, he goes, "What are you, Buddha?" And just as he said that, I thought, oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent this person. So I said, "Mitra, book." He handed me the book. I handed him the Sri Upanishad. This was just after 9/11. That's how long ago it was. It was after 9/11. I remember that because I was distributing books in New York City, and people were they were jangled by the whole experience. I mean, the whole country, world it was a reminder that nobody's safe. Even the United States of America can be under attack. And they were also becoming more and more immune to sectarianism, the idea that one religion would attack people for the purposes of destroying them really was concerning people. It was in the newspaper a lot. And so I opened the Sri Upanishad when I was explaining it to him, and I read him this verse, that one who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and how he doesn't hate anything or any being. And I could see he was genuinely attracted to that. And I explained to him that this is a universal principle, that God's within everything. He's within all of us. It's not a sectarian concern. And he wanted to read more. I could tell how he was looking at the book very curiously. And of course I asked him for a donation because I didn't want to deprive him of the opportunity to give something in return so that he would become even more attached to the book. So he climbed up in his dump truck and he rummaged through the glove box for some time. And I said, I could sense the fact that something was going on. And I said, we have change if you need it. He goes, oh, okay, because I only have a 20 in here. So he came back down, and I didn't know if we had change or not. But when he came down, between the two of us, Mitrasena and I had $4. And I said, we have $4. And he took that in exchange for his $20 bill. And I was very happy to take that book. But it reminded me that the Shastras that we're distributing and reading have such a comprehensive view, and also presented in such a way that it resonates with people, they can appreciate. And this is the vision of the devotee. As you're recording, now you want to give the other verse? Somebody else. Okay, and then there's a comment online.
Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanu.
Well, you could do this one again. Do this in English and then do 7.
Atmani evanupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Translation? He who sees systematically everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being.
Okay, next one.
Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva bhutvijanatah tattvako mohaka shoka ekatvam anupashyatah.
What's moha mean? What's moha? What's moha and shoka? Moha? Moha means illusion.
Anxiety.
Shoka? Yeah. So, okay, 7. You ended up at 6 again, right? We just did 6. There's 7.
So, translation. Okay.
There must be a technology where we can just think of the verse and it ends up on the... Somebody in Silicon Valley should have a startup company where you think of the verse and then it appears on a screen somewhere. That's all you have to do. Okay, so, just give the translation, yeah.
One who sees all living entities as spiritual sparks becomes a true knower of things.
In quality one with the Lord.
In quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him?
So look at the word for word. Moha.
Illusion.
Ka.
What?
Shoka.
Anxiety.
Yeah, so how can there be anxiety for such a person? This is the main cause of anxiety. The Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhayam dvitiya binibesha tasyat ishad apetasya viparya yosmiti. Tanmaya tan buddha abhajitam bhaktyayka yesham gurudevatatma. The Shastra says that the cause of anxiety and fear, bhayam, syat, it arises, bhayam dvitiya, when you see something separate from the Lord. You see yourself separate from the Lord, you see that this is mine. I was putting a diagram on the board the other day. So you could write across the board for people to choose. There's a car, the car, their car, my car. Which one puts fear in your heart when I say my car? Because all of a sudden it's a burden and you think, oh, where is my car right now? Is Radhakripa in the parking lot noticing where I parked? Did somebody scratch my car? Did somebody break the window? Did I pay the insurance? It's unlimited, just one car. What to speak of all the other things that are mine in my life, because I think in terms of mine and somebody else's. But ishavasamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. If I see, oh, it's Krishna's car, of course we care even more for it then. But it's a different kind of anxiety. It becomes spiritual anxiety rather than the self-centered anxiety we have. These verses solve all of humankind's problems. The only difficulty is in inculcating them and accepting, because the living entity wants to be independent and wants to control matter and wants to own things independently. Now we have from the internet. Shraddha, please. Who's checking in from around the world?
This is Vaikuntha Nayak Prabhu from India.
Vaikuntha Nayaka, Hare Krishna.
And this is in continuation with the 6th verse. Danvats Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. You mentioned that this word is the body of the Lord and the devotees are careful about how they use it. I was reminded of one video where Srila Prabhupada visits a seminary in Australia. The monks there say that their guru, Saint Francis of Assisi, used to address all living or non-living entities as sister cow, brother tree. And what was Prabhupada's opinion on this? Srila Prabhupada responds, this is real God consciousness. Also in another instance, in the Lilamrita, I remember where Srila Prabhupada is devastated, and when Srila Prabhupada is devastated when he comes to know that a tree was cut while they were building the temple in Mumbai.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, one caveat I want to give, and Prabhupada brings this up at the outset of his 2 purports on the verses from Sri Upanishad that we saw. He said we're also not to imitate the Mahabhagavata, because some people then will say that, oh, I see everyone equally. And even in the next verse, after Sarvabhuteshu na pashyed from the Srimad Bhagavatam describing the Uttama Adhikari, which is Ishvare Taradineshu Balisheshu Dusatsucha Prema Maitri Kripopeksha Yakaroti Samadhyamaha, describing how the Madhyama Adhikari should see categories of people. He has a vision different from the Mahabhagavata. He distinguishes between the Supreme Lord, he sees the devotees, he sees the innocent, and he also sees the inimical. And he interacts with each one of them differently. And if somebody, a neophyte who's not on the level of a Mahabhagavata, tries to imitate the Mahabhagavata by, for instance, interacting with people who are inimical towards the Lord and saying, no, I'll save them also. That's not the injunction of Shastra. And this is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his commentary, which is mentioned in the purport of that verse, says that we're not to do that. And Prabhupada also warns in the Sri Upanishad, don't try to imitate the vision of the Mahabhagavata. However, Anupashyati means to follow by taking the Shastra and seeing systematically. So we should also connect how everybody's a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. The whole world is part of his creation, part of him actually, and see through the eyes of Shastra, but don't imitate and pretend that you're a Mahabhagavata. Yes? Govinda I would like Govinda Prabhu to have a microphone, because whatever he says is always life-changing. Maybe it's because he's always chanting the holy names.
No, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I wish. Anyhow, this is the story of my life. So, it's no, that's about to come. What I'm going to say is the story of my life.
Okay.
So, all this is great and dandy, right? I mean, this high philosophy about seeing Lord in everything, being Mahabhagavat, it's highly elevating and liberating. But the reality is, the modes of nature are always acting on fools like me. So, even though and that's why I'd like to come to the Saturday class, because I can remind myself that there's something higher than of the I have a lower nature, but there's something more there. But the thing is, there's one thing to hear this, very hard to really ingrain, because of the modes of nature are constantly working in me. And every now and then I just Tamagun takes over, or like Rajagun takes over, so I get angry, or stuff like that. So it's very difficult to really, I just feel, even after chanting and everything. So now and then it doesn't seem like it's working, but it's good for me to come here and take this in.
Thank you for giving us the story of your life. So this is the story of everyone's life in the material world. Thank you for explaining. Krishna describes in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita there are gradations of practice. First of all, he says, always think of me. Just meditate on me. This is natural for someone who's awakened their love for Krishna. As mentioned by Lord Kapiladev, he says that the person who's practicing devotional service and who's transcended the three modes of material nature. Verse, please. Just the first word will suffice. That's the third line. Okay, so he describes how such a person is naturally inclined to think of the Supreme Lord, and he gives a poetical example, an analogy, that as the Ganges is always flowing towards the ocean and can't be stopped, similarly, the mind of a person who's become awakened in Krishna consciousness, Kapiladev, is constantly attracted to hearing about the Lord, and with no impediments whatsoever. And so, if that's not possible, Krishna says, then you have to practice the tenets of Bhakti Yoga. So, let's say, what is this practice? Let's say you're going to take a spaceship to somewhere. Where are you going to go? Where does NASA send people these days? Not to the moon anymore. Okay, well, let's say you're going to go on a Mars expedition. So what do they do with the astronauts? For years ahead of time, they put them through rigorous training. And they put them in a simulated situation. They'll even put them in a little module that shakes back and forth like the spaceship, and in front of their eyes they're seeing, the heavens move past them at light speed. And this is a simulated experience of flying in a spaceship. Plus, they'll only eat the food that they're going to eat when they're on their expedition going to Mars. And they have to learn to take care of all their bodily necessities in the same way. And when they finally put them in the space capsule and shoot it off, he goes, yeah, I'm used to this. So similarly, our practice of bhakti, Krishna recommends, if you're not thinking of me, if you're not there yet, then practice this. So we do the same thing. We worship Tulsi Devi. We come and see the deities who are there. We only eat the food that's there in the spiritual world. We don't eat material food. We only say spiritual things like they say in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, they talk about Krishna. So we practice that. So this is in the realm of pure devotional service, but it's pure devotional service in practice. But it's the same thing in a way, because there's mango, either green mango or ripe mango. Now Krishna says, if you can't do that, if you can't practice like that, which is altogether possible, most of the population can't. Very rare persons can enter into Vaidhi Bhakti. Then he says, okay, do your work, which everyone has to do anyway, because that's part of the material world. As soon as you're born, your parents are waiting there and go, okay, get ready. We have a college fund. You're going to be a doctor, and and you're going to work hard. That's the rule of the material world. So why do they have to work hard? Because that's the law here in the material world. As soon as you come out, they hand you a little chit, and it says, Shnikki, you're going to have to work hard. This is what you got to do while you're in this lifetime. So Krishna says you're going to work hard anyway, so sacrifice some of the fruits of that hard work to me. This is karma yoga, and it's a way in which you'll think of Krishna, and you really will. Because when I'm working hard, I'm so attached to the fruits that if I could at least shave off a little bit, like if you have a nice cake and you want to eat the whole thing, but at least you take out 1/8 of the cake, or at least 1/10, and you give it to your dog or something. Whatever, give it away. Then you say, oh, okay, I'm still alive and I have enough cake. And plus, you think of wherever you gave that money that you gave away, and you'll think of Krishna, like you'll have that connection to him. Then he says, if you can't do that, then try to work charitably. Do something, volunteer something, even if it's not directly for Krishna consciousness. Get in the mood of doing some selfless service. As if you do that, then you'll start to realize the spirit of devotional service. And then he mentions other kinds of methods to remain connected, if not. So he gives this spectrum of various ways in which to practice to come to the point of thinking of him constantly. So now we're going to take a 2-minute break. So you have a chance to stand up for the next section, which will be very focused on, going to talk about anarthas, or unwanted desires that may arise within the heart, and the process recommended within the Srimad Bhagavatam to diminish those, to dissolve them, and to come to the point of nishta, or steady devotional service, where we're no longer influenced by unwanted things that are within our heart. Does that sound reasonable? Okay, so we'll take a 2-minute break, and feel free to move about the universe, but please come back here in 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Nachariyar Marman, Nachariyar Marman, Nachariyar Marman, Nachariyar Marman, hey! Nachariyar Marman, Nachariyar Marman, Nachariyar Marman, Nachariyar Marman.